great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
May not be rich, he's watching every dime, but he loves me, loves me, loves me. We always have a real good time. And maybe he sings off key, but that's alright by me. What he does so well, makes me wanna yell. Let's hear it for the boy. Let's give the boy a hand.
He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts.
Maybe midnight or midday, never early, never late. He gon' stand by what he claimed, lived enough life to say.
I heard your heart, I see your pain, out in the dark, out in the rain. Feel so alone, feel so afraid. I heard you pray, in Jesus' name. It may be midnight or midday, it's never early, never late. He gon' stand by what he claimed. I lived enough life to say, help is on the way, round in the corner. Help is on the way, coming for you. Help is on the way, yeah, yeah. I lived enough life to say, help is on the way. Sometimes it's days, sometimes it's years. Some face a lifetime of falling tears. But he's in the darkness, he's in the cold. Just like the morning, he always shows. It may be midnight or midday, it's never early, never late. He gon' stand by what he claimed. I lived enough life to say, help is on the way, round in the corner. Help is on the way, coming for you. Help is on the way, yeah, yeah. I lived enough life to say, help is on the way. Well, I seen my share of troubles, but the Lord ain't failed me yet. So I'm holding on to the promise, y'all, that he's rolling up his sleeves again. Said I seen my share of troubles, but the Lord ain't failed me yet. We'll keep holding on to the promise.
for the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
It's time we come together on our hallowed ground. Remember 9/11 when we all stood side by side. Americans, not enemies, a country full of pride. They try forces in the boxes, you're either blue, you're red. Instead of digging in, let's find some common ground instead. One thing that I know to be true, patriots come in red and blue. Red and blue. Just because we don't agree, don't mean that we should hate each other. Whatever happened to love one another? Remember 9/11 when we all stood side by side. Americans, not enemies, a country full of pride. They try forces in the boxes, you're either blue, you are red. Instead of digging in, let's find some common ground instead. One thing that I know to be true, patriots come in red and blue.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the show. This is Macil Duncan, and this is the Macil Duncan Radio Show, broadcasting live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we're excited to be a part of the post Labor Day festivities, because today is the day the top 25 football comes out, and my Vols climb the ladder. You'll be pleased if you're in the SEC to know we've got quite a few of the SEC teams crowding in that top 12, and my Vols being one of them. So it's pretty interesting to see the dominance once again of the Southeastern Conference. So if you like football like I do, it was a pretty good showing. If you know how to say our quarterback's last name, I want you to call into the show and try to pronounce it. You call in at 629-282-1776. That's 629-282-1776. I dare you to call in and pronounce the Tennessee's quarterback's last name. I just call him Nico. I can't do it. Now, my good friend Doug Henshaw and I went to the game this past Saturday. His son has season tickets, and we had a blast. We got fried, but we had a lot of fun. And let me tell you, he's better in person. You've heard all the hype. The kid can throw, he can ball, there's no doubt. They only left him in the first half. But in 2 quarters, he set a record, 314 yards and 3 touchdowns. Evidently, that's a new record that Peyton doesn't own. So I think Peyton needs to get ready for this kid. He might break some of Peyton's records. I could see him breaking 2 records. One, I think he could surpass the all-time passing and the all-time touchdowns. Let me give you one reason why. He has an offensive-minded coach. See, Philip Fulmer was a lineman. He believed in the grudge and winning, and once you got a lead, you pull out all your starters. I think Hypo likes to run up the score. He's got a little spurrier in him, and I like that myself. So we'll see what happens. But if you can pronounce the quarterback's last name of Tennessee, call 629-282-1776. Give it a try, and we'll place him on the air this week if you have a chance. That's 629-282-1776. Or you can call that number and tell us why you love America or why you love the Macil Duncan Show. 629-282-1776. If you can keep the message to 30 seconds or less, it would help so we can get more on. But tell your friends to call 629-282-1776. Well, we're broadcast live, as you know, with USAHeartbeat.com and StreetLevelAmerica.com, who now have me in 37 states, Mexico, and Canada. Now, I was in Johnson City, Tennessee for my family reunion. I was very pleasantly told by my cousins, they not only all listen to the show, but they have friends that listen to the show. And this is one thing I thought was interesting. My cousin Kim in Georgia, I've got a large Georgia following down in Georgia, told me that her friends said, hey, I heard this new guy. You've got to catch his show. She goes, what's his name? She goes, I think his name's pronounced Macil Duncan. She goes, that's my cousin. So she had a friend she works with tell her about my show. If I understood that correctly, she lives now in Johnson City. And it's rather interesting, some of the stories. And then I had another gentleman I met who's a double paraplegic who heard about the Street Level America. That's where all my archive shows are, StreetLevelAmerica.com. And he says, I love Street Level America, and I love the interviews that Dave does on the streets. So that's neat that we find fans, even when you're just visiting family or happen to be on the street heading there. So appreciate all that like and share the show. And we're going to move on with, got lots to talk about today, especially since we took Monday and Friday off. You know, got to have that family time, but we enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. Well, we got some splaining to do. You ever heard people say, I got some splaining to do? Somehow, the Harris campaign thought they could get an NFL franchise to endorse them just by putting a sign up. Don't ask their permission. We'll just assume they support us. Bad move, Kamala.
The Philadelphia Eagles kick off their 2024 season this Friday in the first NFL game ever to be played in Brazil. And as the Eagles prepare to face the Green Bay Packers abroad, they are facing another issue off the field here at home, tackling a problem described by the team as counterfeit political ads. In multiple locations across Philly, posters have been popping up showing an image of Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris holding a football and wearing an Eagles jersey with the caption reading, Kamala, official candidate of the Philadelphia Eagles. The poster features a link to the Eagles website's voting information section. While that link is the real deal, the Eagles say the poster and the endorsement are not. The team sent out this message on social media Monday, saying we are aware counterfeit political ads are being circulated and are working with our advertising partner to have them removed. So while the Eagles do have official partners, like convenience store chain Wawa being the team's official hoagie, and Dunkin' being the official coffee of the team, there is no official Eagles candidate, despite what these ads say.
So, somebody is lying. Is anybody surprised that a politician would lie to get elected? I don't think we would. But that's the interesting thing about the Harris campaign. They just kind of like a bunch of rugs in a store. They just keep lying, and it's pretty sad. Pretty sad. Bad joke, I know. But we've got a problem here. That a lot of folks are talking about. The China is doing a thing called, and I think they're calling it spamouflage. This is where Chinese have intentionally used different things on social media, and they could be the ones behind this false advertisement of the Philadelphia Eagles. Check this out. It's called spamouflage. That's a new name. Spamouflage.
As the 2024 presidential election draws nearer, China is stepping up its attempts to influence American voters' decision. A new report shows a rise in what's known as spamouflage, with accounts claiming to be U.S. voters and soldiers posting about hot-button issues, including reproductive rights, U.S. support for Ukraine, and America's policy toward Israel. These spamouflage accounts criticize both President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as former President Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Researchers say they sometimes even use artificial intelligence tools to create divisive content. In its most recent election security update, the U.S. intelligence community said in July Chinese actors are, quote, using social media to sow divisions in the United States and portray democracies as chaotic.
So, China, I don't know if that surprises anybody, but China seems to have a desire to be involved in our elections. And we find out that China, has some interesting connections with some of our politicians, and particularly one party, it appears. But as you start understanding this, I don't know if you know, in the city of New York, there is their own, if you want to call it, Chinese police station. They have a headquarters. And what they do at that headquarters, the CCP, which is a Chinese Communist Party, they keep track of all their Chinese American citizens here on visas, and even those that have applied for citizenship and have become U.S. citizens. They have a daunting, if you want to call it, intimidation campaign where their family members back home, and they threaten American Chinese citizens or those here on visas and work visas. They better comply, such as giving information or doing things that they're asked to do that might be deceptive to America. In so doing, more and more has come out. Well, recently, the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, well, let's just say, believe it or not, the FBI raided her place.
Welcome back, everyone. Here to Live Now from Fox. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you. New York police have arrested a former aide to Governor Kathy Hochul today, weeks after the FBI raided the aide's Long Island home. Authorities arrested both Linda's son and her husband, Chris Hugh, in Tuesday's action. The son is charged with violating conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, visa fraud, alien smuggling, and money laundering conspiracy. She is alleged to have acted on behalf of the government of China and the Chinese Communist Party. Hochul fired son last year after her office discovered evidence of misconduct. This individual was hired by the executive chamber more than a decade ago. We terminated her employment in March of 2023 after discovering evidence of misconduct, immediately reported her actions to law enforcement and have assisted law enforcement throughout this process, Hochul's office said in a statement. He was also charged with money laundering conspiracy. The FBI had raided son's $3.5 million home back in late July, but no arrests were made at the time.
Can we wait just a second here? She's an aide to the governor, and she lives in a $3.5 million mansion? What does that job pay? I just want you to think about that. Governor Hochul, she fired her. But if somebody is being hired and you look at their address and they live in the swanky part of town and it's just for a aide secretarial type position, you've got to ask yourself, why would you want to work for the governor of New York when you live like a king over here? Unless Hochul had connections with the Chinese government, and she had to fire her because the money laundering, and if you also notice, the other charge was human smuggling. That's probably sex trafficking, allegedly. Got to throw in allegedly for the legal reasons. What other Democrat has issues with Chinese employees?
And Feinstein and a Chinese spy, the unsuspecting mole who got a front row seat to the senator's dealings for 2 decades. Good evening.
Oh, the longest termed senator in American history, Dianne Feinstein, had a driver who was a Chinese spy for over 20 years, and oopsie whoopsie, she knew nothing about it. She happened to be a dual citizen of China. She made all of her trades through Chinese-owned companies. Her and her husband were very wealthy people through playing the markets and stock exchange, etc. All through Chinese, I say, governments and investments. They had a home in China. But shockaroo, they didn't know that that their driver for 20 years was a Chinese spy. So that's 2 Democrats that employed Chinese spies. I pray tell, is there any other Chinese connections with the Democratic Party? There is. We'll get to it when I come back. You don't turn a dial. I've got some good stuff. And the interesting thing is Adam Schiff, a Democrat, Dianne Feinstein, as you know, Nancy the Pelosi, all of them know of this particular spy and the interactions this spy had on many levels. Don't forget my book, Move Your Mountains. I'll be back after the break.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Hi, this is Kat from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I just wanted to say how much I love your show. I love the topics that you cover and all the special guests that you have come online. It keeps things really fun and interesting. Thank you.
Little boy blue, come blow on your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. You've messed up again. What's the matter with you? Can't you do anything right? Worthless little brat.
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life.
Somebody's going to get hit.
Teach carefully. We can show you how. We're ACT, Adults and Children Together Against Violence. And if you're a parent or caregiver, we can help you teach your child how to rise above violence, not succumb to it. Visit actagainstviolence.org for details or call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure. Call today, 877-ACT-WISE, and stop violence before it starts. This message brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Psychological Association, and the MetLife Foundation.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I had something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
It's well known that other countries spy on each other. So what does China do that's different?
Well, what I would say is there's nothing traditional about the scale of China's spying and theft campaign, and there's an awful lot about the way they go about it that's far from traditional. And it is as complex and broad a threat as we've ever seen. I would argue that there is no country that presents a broader, more severe threat to our innovation, our ideas, and our economic security than China does. And when I say that, I want to be clear.
Now, that is Christopher Wray, the FBI director. He's being interviewed here on NBC News about the threat of China. And the FBI director, Wray, says the scale of Chinese spying in the U.S. blew me away. And he said there's now over 2,000 cases they've had to open because of the Chinese infiltration into our political and world and politicians, if you will. Now, I played for you if you were here earlier, that the governor of New York has recently had an FBI raid on her former aide, and she was arrested, and so was her husband. And just to play this again in case you missed it.
Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you. New York police have arrested a former aide to Governor Kathy Hochul today, weeks after the FBI raided the aide's Long Island home. Authorities arrested both Linda's son and her husband, Chris Hugh.
And they lived in a $3.5 million home there in New York. They lived high on the hog, evidently, but she was an aide to Hochul. And she also worked her way up through the political system. And so it's just interesting, and I played this also wasn't too long ago, that there was a driver for Dianne Feinstein that also was arrested as a spy. She didn't realize for 20 years he was her driver. Oopsie whoopsie. He was a spy for China.
Feinstein and a Chinese spy, the unsuspecting mole who got a front row seat to the senator's dealings for 2 decades.
2 decades. So that's a lot of spying. But let's get to the lady that we all have heard of, Fang Fang. Yes, she had sexual exploits as well as other encounters with multiple politicians here in America.
Chinese spy named Fang Fang, also known as Christine Fang, had for some time infiltrated the U.S. political world through political fundraising and sexual bribery, and had had affairs with several political figures.
See, we all thought it was just Chris Swalwell, the senator who was on the Intelligence Committee. No, evidently she took the California manual from Kamala Harris on how to make friends.
Although Fang
in low places
returned to China in 2015, after years of silence, she suddenly updated her Facebook page in November with a picture of herself and of the Capitol Hill ceiling, seemingly announcing, "I'm back." Let's look at Fang Fang's background. She attended California State University, East Bay in 2011, where she served as president of the school's Chinese Student Association.
Comes to art in America. Goes to a school in America. She's the president of the Chinese club, if you will. Okay? We're opening the freaking door to the world. And we don't have any boundaries. No, have you ever gone bowling and you know the kids, they have the bumper things in so that the ball doesn't go in the gutter. You know, they have these little protectors. You know, we don't have any protectors. We don't have anything. Our government has gone cray-cray with this communism involvement. Not to mention, you remember some of our military graduates from military institutions were hiding signs in their hats says, we're communist. You remember that?
A typical place, mentioned by various U.S. official national security reports, where Chinese students are recruited as spies. She was also president of the Asian Pacific Public Affairs Alliance chapter. She maintained exceptionally close ties with the Chinese Communist Consulate in San Francisco. Fang's campaign fundraising, extensive contacts, personal charm, and affectionate or sexual relationships with at least 2 Midwestern mayors brought her quickly to the center of power.
So she worked her way up. She slept with 2 mayors and did sexual things for them. And here she is, a picture with her and Eric Swalwell when he was a much younger man. So his testimony that it was a quick, momentous moments with her, not so, my friend. I think they were doing the bow chicka bow bow for quite some time.
Between 2011 and 2015, she met many prominent Bay Area political figures, including Ro Kahana, Eric Swalwell, California Assemblywoman Judy Chu, and then Assemblyman Mike Honda. But some politicians find her whereabouts suspicious. Raj Salwin, a Fremont City Council member, said to Axios, "She was everywhere. I'm amazed at how active she is and how many politicians she knows."
She was everywhere. Just leave it at that.
The Biden administration.
Okay. Oh, you got to ask yourself. I mean, who sends their daughter to another country and says, honey, I want you to go get a degree in their language and their culture and sleep with as many guys as you can for the team? Who does this to a kid?
Information about U.S. government officials, their habits, preferences, schedules, social networks, even rumors about them could be.
She's supposed to learn. Did you catch that? Their habits, their social networks, their preferences. I'll play that again. This is what she's told to learn. See, when they get around you, especially, that's why we're so stupid on social media. People give out all their stuff and they play these games on social media. Oh, you ought to play this game, and it asks your favorite color, who is your dog, what's your mother's maiden name, all the things to hack in to get your credit score and information. And some of you just give it up willfully. Or you get someone like this that's very creative and very seductive.
In fact, any private information about U.S. government officials, their habits, preferences, schedules, social networks, even rumors about them, could be political intelligence for hostile countries. The FBI has also been on her case for years, monitoring her and finding that she had developed sexual or ambiguous relationships with at least 2 mayors and 2 officials over a 3-year period. One of Fang's targets was a young California Assemblyman, Eric Swalwell.
See? They want you to think it was just when he was on the Intelligence Committee. Ooh, I had a moment of bad lack of judgment. Oh, no. This dude was sleeping with her doing the bow chicka bow bow back when he was just in the California. Okay? He took this relationship to D.C., and he was placed on the Intelligence Committee in D.C. He's given information that the other Congress are not privy to. And why was a young senator, usually that's for the mature senators that have been at D.C. for a while. Why was this young guy expedited so quickly onto such a powerful committee? China's got a lot of ties, my friend.
Swalwell later became a member of the U.S. Congress and was appointed to the House Intelligence Committee and served as the chief Democrat on the CIA's Oversight Subcommittee.
The chief Democrat on the CIA Oversight Committee. The kid just gets, and all of a sudden he gets that. It's kind of like Obama. Obama's first term, he was a state senator, and he goes to Congress, and within no time, he got picked to go to the Ukraine. Go look it up. To represent America and to broker an energy deal. And he goes. Next thing you know, he's president. Ukraine's been in the news ever since.
Where he was in control of some of the top U.S. secrets.
I don't have any concern about Mr. Swalwell. There are those in the Congress who believe, and I am among them, that we should be seeing what influence the Chinese. I've been fighting them, as you know, for over 30 years.
Ah, Nancy. This is back during COVID, by the way, she had the mask on. She'd been fighting the Chinese for over 30 years. The richest politician in American history. Many of them with the exchange with China, like the Feinsteins. She's richer than Dianne Feinstein. For 30 years, she's been fighting with them.
In terms of their undue influence at universities in our country and the overtures they try to make to members of Congress. In terms of Mr. Swalwell, in the spring of 2015, the leadership of the House and the committee were informed that overtures from a Chinese person were being made to members of Congress. When that was made known to the members of Congress, it was over. You know.
But if she knew and maintained Swalwell on intel, wrong.
This is McCarthy talking about Pelosi now. I skipped ahead.
He is a national security threat. He puts the threat of everybody else of what they're talking about as well.
So this dude took a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy from the state of California, and he brought her to D.C. Wow. Very interesting. I'll be back.
I just wanted to share that I love the radio show that Macil does. He just tells it like it is, which is so refreshing for a media outlet. He has an easygoing and uplifting personality, and he just makes you feel like you're a friend sitting in their living room talking. He does not fall for the gaslighting of today, and he shares the truth of the matter. I love his sense of humor, and his sound effects are great, like when he whistles, cracks me up. He has so much wisdom, and his variety of guests is just awesome. I learn a lot from his show. He does his research, obviously. So I just really wanted to say thank you, Chattanooga Radio. I just love this show. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep, and my dorky dad hat, and I'm gonna do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up. See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time.
What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
All those smiling, happy faces, laughing, enjoying life. Then I turn the TV off, and I'm back to reality. The faces here are not so happy after the spill. I mean, just look around. The fourth-generation shop owner who'd give anything to turn on his dusty open sign. The fisherman with the 1,000-mile stare. People of the Gulf region have been through a lot, and we're pretty good at bouncing back, but we can all use some help from time to time. If you're experiencing increased anxiety, worry, or anger, you should know that the assistance you may need to help you cope is here. For confidential counseling, call 800-985-5990. 800-985-5990. Or text TALK WITH US to 66746. With help, you won't need a TV to see a smiling face, only a mirror. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council. Message and data rates may apply.
I've had trouble with Angel trying to finish high school. He's always struggled through even elementary. It would be frustrating because sometimes I would talk to him and he wouldn't even turn around and look at me. I would ask him, "So you're going to school today, right?" He would say, "Yeah." And then later during the day, I would get a phone call saying he wasn't in class. He dropped off for a whole month. There's a time that I just gave up. I just decided, you know what, I don't know what to do with you. I mean, I pretty much have done everything to try to get you back to school. You know, you feel that maybe you're not a good parent, or maybe you don't know how to fix the problem. I really didn't have many people to look to but myself. Now I think that it's gotten a lot better. Now I at least have hope that he'll finish high school. I can't give up. He's still my son. You know, I can't give up.
Give your teen the boost they need to graduate. Call 1-877-4A-KID or join us at boostup.org for tips and advice. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Hey guys, I'm Macil Duncan, and welcome back to the show. I want to remind you that Tennessee football has a new quarterback, but he's got a unique last name, and you need to try to pronounce it. If you'll call into the show, 629-282-1776, I've had one person do so, 629-282-1776, and tell us how to pronounce the quarterback's last name for the Tennessee Vols. Now, it's been such a deal. This is one of the local news stations there in Knoxville trying to pronounce it.
With Joe Milton deciding not to play in the Citrus Bowl, UT will be turning to the backup quarterback. But how many Vol fans can correctly say his last name? We went out to Market Square to find out.
Nico Lamaleva.
Lamaleva. Lamaleva. Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaliava?
Nico Yamamaliva.
All right, to help out Vol Nation, Nico took to Twitter to share how he says it.
What up, y'all? I'm Nico Yamaliava, and the correct way to pronounce my last name is
I'm not telling you. Let's see if you guys can do what the others did. Call into the show, 629-282-1776. Leave a 30-second voice message or tell us why you love America or why you love the show. If you can tell, we play them on the show here, 629-282-1776. If you go to my Facebook page, it's got the runner. It's got the phone number at the top and right under streetlevelamerica.com. So give it a call. Give it a try, and it'll be interesting to see how you pronounce the quarterback of Tennessee. Very interesting. Well, as I was, I'm going to finish up my report on China's invasion, if you will, into the American politics. Mike Pompeo gave a very impressive speech, if you remember, kind of warning all the governors that we know some of you get money from China, check out this and ask yourself, is my governor one of these he's warning?
Basketball on my phone on the way in, Auburn 91, LSU 90. So I just wanted to mention that if you see me in your state, I'm not lost. I know your state has not seceded from the union. I was being invited to the U.S.-China Governors Collaboration Summit. It was an event co-hosted by the National Governors Association and something called the Chinese People's Association for Friendship and Foreign Countries. Sounds pretty harmless. What the invitation did not say is that the group I just mentioned, is the public face of the Chinese Communist Party's official foreign influence agency, the United Front Work Department. Now, I was lucky. I was familiar with that organization from my time as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, but it got me thinking, how many of you made the link between that group and Chinese Communist Party officials?
Governor Kemp in Georgia, communist ties. I'm sorry, let's go back.
What if you made a new friend while you were at that event? What if your new friend asked you for introductions to other politically connected and powerful people? What if your new friend offered to invest big money in your state, perhaps in your pension, in industries sensitive to our national security?
Governor Kemp, Georgia, Governor Kemp, Georgia.
These aren't hypotheticals. These scenarios are all too true, and they impact American foreign policy significantly. Indeed, last year, a Chinese government-backed think tank in Beijing produced a report that assessed all 50 of America's governors.
Listen to this.
On their attitudes towards China. They labeled each of you friendly, hardline, or ambiguous. I'll let you decide where you think you belong. Someone in China already has. Many of you, indeed, in that report are referenced by name. So here's the lesson. The lesson is that competition with China is not just a federal issue. It's why I wanted to be here today, Governor Hogan. It's happening in your states with consequences for our foreign policy, for the citizens that reside in your states, and indeed for each of you.
Now, the reason I say Governor Kemp in Georgia, I've mentioned this before. If you remember when Donald Trump was president and he shut down the Costco port in California. Costco spelt with a K, not a C. They tried to use things to fool us by pronouncing it Costco. Many of us just assumed it was the Costco, the big chain that we shop at here in America. But Costco with a K is from China. And they were busted with fentanyl and child or human trafficking, and so Trump shut down the port. So they were looking for another avenue into America with their goods. Who took them up on their offer? Georgia. If you go back and look during Trump's reign, if you will, as president, it was his second and third year Governor Kemp became friendly with China, did many advertisements with the China flag behind him, welcoming them to the Peach State. And Georgia went from third in 2017, I believe it was, or 18, but ended up being the number 2 importer of China goods into America. Is it any wonder why Governor Kemp is so compromised? Why he keeps appointing people that hate Trump to these commissions or to these voting, while Rafflesberger has now been caught in so many lies. They're on the take. I almost guarantee you it's allegedly sad, but the evidence keeps mounting. So with Mike Pompeo giving a warning, and this was back February 8th, 2020, okay? He was trying to explain that the Chinese government has a list. You're friendly, unfriendly, or ambiguous. In the middle, I guess, type thing. You got to ask yourself, where is the governors of America on that list? And has your governor sold you out and your people? Something to consider. But with all this talk about China and the infiltration And the news that I was bringing to you is that China uses a camouflage, if you will. It's kind of a spamouflage is the term they're using. And this term is interesting because it's what they're doing to influence on our election by getting politicians, by getting involved. It's not just George Soros anymore. You know, everyone just thought it was George Soros. No, there's so many groups out there, but China, check again what they call China's spamouflage.
As the 2024 presidential election draws nearer, China is stepping up its attempts to influence American voters' decision. A new report shows a rise in what's known as spamouflage, with accounts claiming to be U.S. voters and soldiers posting about hot-button issues. Shows a rise in what's known as spamouflage. What's known as spamouflage. What's known as spamouflage. What's known as spamouflage. What's known as spamouflage, with accounts claiming to be U.S. voters and soldiers posting about hot-button issues, including reproductive rights, U.S. support for Ukraine, and America's policy toward Israel. These spamouflage accounts criticize both President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as former President Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
So what it is they're dipping in both sides of the aisle, causing confusion, and it seems like they want to intentionally cause conflict amongst the citizenship of America. Be careful, like there is an artificial intelligence of Caitlin Clark supposedly calling George Washington and LeBron James traitors, that they George Washington, who once fought for the British, fought for America, was a traitor, much like LeBron James jumped from Cleveland and took his talents to South Beach. If you watch, the lips don't match and her head's down. But when I first heard it, I thought, man, that is crazy. She's calling George Washington a traitor. It was very slick, very sly, and then it goes on to say, and that she recognizes Michael Jordan as the GOAT. But if you go watch it, the lips don't match. And now it's been identified as an AI attempt. And was that China? Was that spamouflage? See, my point is, that didn't mention necessarily, that just mentioned our founding fathers in a light approach to slam them as a traitor. We're going to have lots of, all this stuff coming up is going to be huge for us to deal with. Now, Facebook is dealing with this. See what you think.
Amazon's Alexa is getting an upgrade. With the AI arms race still in full swing, the latest move may be a signal the online retailer is willing to collaborate to win the war. The new Alexa releases in October and will be largely powered by Anthropic's Claude AI chatbot. The decision to go with the startup company's AI tech instead of...
By the way, Claude, that's my first name, so do I get any royalties for that? I doubt it.
Go with the startup company's AI tech instead of Amazon's internal tech comes after an in-house AI experienced delayed responses. The CEO of Anthropic has spoken in the past about why a partnership with Amazon works for both companies.
Anthropic is a company that focuses on producing AI. We don't focus on producing chips, and we don't focus on, provisioning cloud building data centers or provisioning cloud instances to serve the models on. And so these other companies that we're partners with, the cloud providers, provide something that's complementary to us in an economic sense.
The new Alexa isn't free. It will cost $5 to $10 a month. The current Alexa can set alarms, play music, and answer simple questions. But Amazon also wanted its users to shop through the device, which hasn't worked so well in the past.
So Amazon, all of them are tuning up their artificial intelligence services. And we've already caught Google's AI trying to rewrite history and trying to make like our founding fathers were of different, just different from what we would call founding fathers anyway. So as you start looking at this, it's very interesting, and it's something for you to take note in, my friend, because the deception is real, and it's something a lot of folks would take great great pride in knowing that they caused us a heartburn, if you will. And that's something we don't want. Well, Canada is turning away more people. All of a sudden, Trudeau wants to tighten his borders. Why?
Canada is turning away more people at its borders and approving fewer visas, according to new government data obtained by Reuters. The new data showing a crackdown at the country's border comes as there is a growing dissatisfaction from Canadians in how Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal government has been handling immigration, with next year being an election year. According to the data, in July, Canada rejected a record 5,853 foreign travelers, students, workers, and tourists, marking the highest number since at least January of 2019. Border officers also deemed 285 visa holders inadmissible in July, another record high.
So why is Canada tightening its borders? Are they preparing for something? Possibly. I mean, if Trump wins, he said he's tightening the border. But that is just interesting that Trudeau, all of a sudden, who is pretty much a lip-lock liberal and goes along with progressive ideologue, etc. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Canada also wants to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. Now, with China infiltrating America, Trudeau tightening his borders and now putting a 100% tariff on Chinese-made EVs to protect trade?
Following the U.S. and EU's lead, Canada is imposing significant tariffs on Chinese products. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announcing Canada will impose a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on Chinese aluminum and steel.
Wow. So what's got Trudeau so Trumpy? I don't know. But he seems to want to be in policymaking. So you've got Trudeau kind of copying Trump mentality, and you've got Harris stealing some of Trump's mantra, trying to pretend that she's also in favor of strengthening the border now, which is hilarious. She's now in favor of the taking away the tax on tips, even though she cast the tie-breaking vote in the Senate to pass that crazy bill that taxes tips. So I guess Kamala is the ultimate flip-flopper, but I think a lot of folks are kind of saying, hey, this is just not making sense. And what has got her to that point? I don't know, but I can tell you this. I think as the election gets closer, I think many of us are going to be more concerned. Now, when we come back at the 4 o'clock break, and I just want you to know that there is an ad. I'm going to play it for you at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. That the former vice president candidate with Kennedy, Shannon, she made, and it's crazy, and it makes fun of Trump derangement syndrome. But you've got Trudeau and Harris trying to play to, I guess, the folks in the country that may say, I don't like Trump, but I like his policies. Well, if they start pretending to have some of his policies, what they may be trying to do is influence the voters. Because think about this, Trudeau and Kamala Harris are both very progressive, okay, very lip-lock liberal. If maybe what they're trying to do is say, hey, I'll tighten my border up here. You say you want to tighten the southern border between now and the election. Maybe we can fool people into thinking that they'll be safe for a while. Well, then you have to look at these gangs that are attacking in Chicago and Colorado and probably coming to a city near you. They're coming in and they're wearing equipment that looks like maybe they're construction workers. They're knocking on people's doors in apartments and in neighborhoods. And people are just assuming that they are legit. They crack their door and they bust in and they're stealing and harming people. And they're getting away with it. And this is interesting. So I played for you earlier. Christopher Wray says we've got over 2,000 ongoing investigations about Chinese infiltration with our politicians and politics. We've got borders, southern and northern border issues. I mean, the FBI has got a lot going on, not to mention They're investigating the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. And, of course, they have to raid Mar-a-Lago and all these other places when they're told to. They're going after all the January 6 people, Americans, and how dare they go into the people's house. And so what you're seeing, and the thing that really burns my biscuits, okay, on that January 6 stuff, is how many times have we seen progressives storm into state capitals? They've done it in Wisconsin. They've done it in Nashville. They've done it all over. And even up in D.C., they're allowed to storm in, disrupt, shout, blow horns, blow whistles, and sing their kumbaya crazy songs. And it's like, well, we've got to let them have their moment. No one's arrested. No big news write-up. We have a problem in this country that we don't have pure justice, because what's happened? This country's gotten away from its founding fathers. You ought to get this book here. And it's Prayers from Our Founding Fathers. And I've read it several times. But as you understand, this country was founded on Christian Judeo principles. Go back and look at the Mayflower Compact. I bring this often up all the time to remind you that the early pilgrims, when they came here, lived off the Bible as the way of life. The Mayflower Compact was their agreement of rules and how to get along with one another and how they dealt with issues. It was the Ten Commandments. It was the love thy neighbor as thyself. It was the teachings of Christ. And that was what they lived on for 85 years prior to the Revolutionary War and then the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. Do some good research. Study how this country was truly founded. Don't let them fool you into thinking that our national anthem and our founding fathers were all just these evil-minded people. That's just not so. That's just not so. But, you know, when you have a group of progressive lip-lock liberals, now think about what they control. They definitely can control the finances. They're globalists, and they have a big hand on the global banks. They have a big hand on the education system. Okay, savvy? And because of that, they have then graduated out a couple of decades now of very lip-lock-minded young people that are now lawyers and judges in the courts. As this starts to happen, people that don't agree with the progressive mindset, you probably heard, I've got it posted, maybe I can find it and play it later in the show. A Christian teacher was arrested in another country. I'm trying to remember which country at the moment. And his crime? He didn't agree with transgenderism, and he didn't want to teach it in his classroom, so the police came and arrested him. Just because he didn't want to teach something he didn't believe was real. He thinks transgenderism is a mental health illness like it has been for decades. If you go look in all the medical journals, people that don't want to change their genders, it's a mental health issue. For people to transition from one sex to another, they give you all these freaking shots. If you're a chick, they give you tons of testosterone. If you're a dude, they shoot you up with estrogen. And they'll tell you what happens is there's a lot of mental breakdowns. There's a lot of depression and sometimes uncontrollable rage of anger. And I'll bring up to you, too, what's been released, the full documentation of the shooter in Nashville who was a full-blown transgender. You've got to be big enough to know the truth of these issues. You can't just take the surface little polite explanation. Or this nation won't be a nation. We'll just be one province. I mean, we're looking more and more like the Hunger Games movie every freaking day. Are you going to be the tribute that goes and gets killed and slaughtered on TV so that there looks like some form of peace, but then they put oppression? Think about it. Look what they've done to X. They've taken away the freedom of speech in a country here recently. They shut down a social media because they didn't agree with it. They arrested the Telegram guy because they felt like he allowed too much free speech. They've gone after two major social media giants, and basically because they both were trying to practice free speech on their platform, allowing people to express themselves. Now, if you agree with their progressive, crazy agenda, you can dress up like a nut job and go to libraries and read books to kids. That's fine. But if you don't agree with that, and how dare you post it or say it on a radio show like I'm doing now, well, we better find a way to arrest and silence that person. You going to arrest us all? Don't forget, most of the Bible was written in prison, my friend. See, you can oppress Christians, and you can kill us. But understand this. God's word will never die. We're told very clearly in John chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the word of God, the word was with God, and the word was God. We're also told in Hebrews that the Bible is a living, active, two-edged sword, able to separate bone from marrow. So when you read the Bible, my friend, you're literally reading from the breath of heaven. And if you'll digest it and read it with a heart of truth and not a skeptic trying to find some misguidance, if you will. And that's the thing called faith. Some people want guidance. They have faith in an almighty. Some don't want that. Some want to control their own destiny so bad, and your destiny. They want to control all of our destinies because they want to fit their agenda. I'm amazed at how folks on the far left and progressives, and you got to admit this, if you're a liberal, listen to me, you've got to admit you have been taught not to allow people like me to speak. Stop us at all cost. Why is that? Are you afraid our free speech just might challenge your free mind? Think about that. If you're only allowed one message and one voice and one side of a view, and you don't want to hear the other side, that's not free speech and that's not free will. That's manipulation. And I don't think a lot of folks can see that sometimes. You got to be careful. You got to be wise. There's a lot going on, and it's hard to cover everything. And I don't claim to know all. Please don't think I know all the truth, because I surely don't. Well, how we doing on time for the break? We got to go. It's 4 o'clock. I'll be right back.
Hey, I'm from Texas, and I love listening to your show because y'all tell truth on there. You don't water it down, and I know what I listen to is real. And so, yes, just want to say that I'm glad that you're doing the show, and I'm friends with Jolene, and I do love America. I really do. Keep going. Gung ho, guys, with the show. We got your back. Bye.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Hi, I'm Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead. We've traveled all over the world, from Amsterdam to the Great Pyramids of Egypt. But I can't think of anywhere more full of beauty, life, and music than our own national forest. I love the forest. But you know, all its beauty can be taken away from us through one careless act. A campfire unattended, a cigarette butt thrown out a car window, or a trash fire left alone. You see, one little fire can quickly become one big fire, a forest fire. And before you know it, the trees stop swaying, the flowers stop blooming, and the birds stop singing. So please, be careful in the forest. It belongs to all of us, and remember, only you can prevent forest fires.
A public service of this station, the Forest Service, USDA, your state foresters, the Ad Council,
and the Grateful Dead.
This is the sound of a brand new outdoor grill being hurled off a 20-story building. Now a stylish glass coffee table. An electric guitar. These are the things you could enjoy, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Visit EnergySavers.gov and get tips on how to save energy and money. Then do things like switch to Energy Star light bulbs or Energy Star appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. So this doesn't happen to the recliner you've had your eye on, or this to the treadmill on your wish list, or this to the shiny new bike your kid's been asking for. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Want to fight childhood asthma? Then fight it with a scrub brush and a hot soapy towel. Even in the neatest and tidiest homes, if there's so much as a crumb to eat or a drop to drink, household pests like bugs and mice will do all that they can to get it. Creepy crawlies like bugs and mice are unpleasant enough as it is, but they're more than just a nuisance for kids with asthma because they can actually trigger an asthma attack. So give them a whole lot of nothing. Sweep up crumbs, wipe down tables, scrub dishes before they pile up in the sink, and store leftovers in plastic bags or bowls. Don't leave them so much as one tidbit or nibble, and you can stop a childhood asthma attack before it starts. Discover other simple ways to prevent an asthma attack. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS or visit noattacks.org, because no child should feel like a fish out of water. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. EPA, the Ad Council, and this station.
Well, as we come back to the show, I just want to talk to you a little bit. We've got a lot of folks interested in how to pronounce the quarterback's name. This is Karen, and I just wanted to weigh in on the football player's name. I think it's Nico. Well, you can spell it, but can you say it, Miss Karen? That's the whole point. I want you to call in and put a recording, 629-282-1776. 629-282-1776. How do you pronounce the name of the quarterback for Tennessee? Now, here's some people on the street in Knoxville trying to pronounce it. See what you think.
Correctly say his last name. We went out to Market Square to find out.
Nico Lamalevia.
Lamaleva. Lamaleva. Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Try again. Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaliava.
Nico Yamamaliva.
All right, to help out Vol Nation, Nico took to Twitter to share how he says it.
What up, y'all? I'm Nico Yamaliava, and the correct way to pronounce my last name is
I'm not going to play it. Now, if you can pronounce it, I dare you to call 629-282-1776. That's 629-282-1776. You got 30 seconds in that recording to tell us who you are, how to pronounce the name, and maybe where you live. If you're from, we got folks from Texas, Oklahoma. We've had a plethora of states call in, Tennessee, Georgia. Call in, tell us who you are. And also you can call in, tell us why you love America or why you love the Macil Duncan Show, 629-282-1776. But Tennessee football has been on the rise the past couple of years. I'm a Vol fan. And I was at the game Saturday with my pal Doug Henshaw from high school. And he and I went to watch the Vols play, and we got to see Nico first play of the game. And I've got it, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I took a picture, of a video, of his very first play in Neyland Stadium. And he's all that they're hyped up to be, in my opinion. He only played the first 2 quarters. They played all the backups because it was such a blowout. Sadly, we were playing UTC. I'm from Chattanooga, and I try to support UTC when I can. But they were definitely outmatched, and that's what happens. They call them tune-up games. If you've watched The Longest Yard, Burt Reynolds had a version, Adam Sandler. But they have a tune-up game against a team they should beat to make sure your offense and defense works out the kinks. And if you notice across the country, many of the big schools played a tune-up game, if you will. So Tennessee did, and we won 69-3, I believe it was. So, but good game. But the quarterback has a unique name. See if you can say it. Now, I will say this: if I've got the, I think I've got the ESPN standings here. If you haven't heard who is in the top, they just released this right before the show, and ESPN releases the Associated Press, and let's see, the AFC coaches poll and the press. Let's see. Number 1 is Georgia. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Texas. Then Alabama. Ole Miss is number 5. Oregon is 6. Number 7, Notre Dame. Number 8 is Penn State. Number 9 is Michigan. And that's going to be interesting. Michigan is playing, they're playing someone big this coming week. Anyway, Missouri is number 10, number 11, Utah, and Tennessee went from 15 to 12. We still haven't broken into the top 10, but we've climbed. We were in just in the top 20, and so after I don't know what made us in number 15, and then now we're 12. But we'll see. You got time. But what's sad is Clemson fell the furthest. They fell 8 spots to 22. I think that was the deepest fall. Clemson got annihilated by Georgia. Everyone's probably going to get annihilated by Georgia. Tennessee, I hope we give them a good game. But the game I'm excited about is coming up with Bama because we'll see Saban has left the building. And I don't know if any of you are Alabama fans out there. If you are, you have that RTR, and I know that RTR stands for Roll Tennessee Roll. I know that's what you mean. But anyway, Alabama will be pretty vulnerable, I think, this year because you got to remember, if you've played sports, and I played for Red Bank High School under Coach Weathers, and I've played, other levels. But as you play sports, your coach will tell you a lot of it's up here. Some people may have the physical attributes to look like a beast, but they don't have the mental capacity to dominate. And I think that's what people like Pat Summitt brought to Tennessee Vols ladies program. When you go look at the teams that have a dominant run of championships for multiple years, it's usually the coach that has a dominant mentality, if you will, over the team. Now, I'll tell you an analogy that I thought was interesting is how the Patriots had that, and then because their little thing was do your job. You remember all that? Do your job. But I think every coach has to have that key player that helps communicate his message, his thoughts, his heart to the team. When Tom Brady left the Patriots, I think he lost his messenger. Belichick hadn't changed as a coach, but he lost the guy that took the message to the fellas and said, hey, this is what he means, let's do this. Because ever since Belichick, and if you notice, no one's hiring Belichick. I mean, he's been out of coach. This is his second season. So Captain Cranky Pants that used to wear the cut-up hoodies and wouldn't want to talk to media. I mean, he was pretty full of himself. He can't find a job right now. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I've not even seen him doing any broadcast booth. So Tom Brady, I think, really not only made him look good, but Tom Brady, I think, was also his mouthpiece. He had a way of working out the rough edges for him. But two things Belichick did, I think, that upset Brady was, one, if you remember, he told him to get his nutritionist off the campus. He didn't like that nutritionist. But you look at Tom, that's why he played so long. I mean, Peyton Manning and others didn't last as long. He had a nutritionist year-round that kept his body in pristine shape. The other thing I think that they got sideways on, because Tom always took the pay cuts. You know, I'm a big Peyton Manning fan, but Peyton always wanted the high paychecks. He always wanted to help pay for his offensive line, his receivers. But I think one thing Tom got a little leery of was how Belichick would kind of the way he handled some of his coaches. And I didn't. Once you got in his doghouse, supposedly you were pretty much done with. So anyway, interesting stuff. Don't need to go on about the Patriots. They're not my favorite team, nor my favorite topic. So let's not deal with that. But anyway, Top 25 is out. You can go check it out on ESPN. Breaking: FBI arrests former Deputy Chief of Staff for New York, Kathy Hochul, for acting as an agent of the Chinese Communist government. I've played the video on that. That is interesting that New York is right now facing this. And don't forget, Mayor Adams had his campaign manager and another staff member raided by the FBI over the last 14 months. Every time he came out speaking in favor of border control or sounding a little bit Trumpy, the FBI came down on him. All of a sudden, Hochul is being investigated by the FBI, and supposedly she fired this young lady. Her name wasn't Fang Fang, but she has a lot of resemblance in age and stuff. So look at this. Blaze Media says 75% of arrests in New York City neighborhoods are illegal aliens. Police are now sharing. 75% of the arrests in New York City, a sanctuary city. Now, the interesting thing that's been coming out in some of the polls and the discussions of people on the streets, they're not real happy with these sanctuary cities. We'll talk more when I come back.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Hi, this is Renee for The Republic. StarSpangled.com, a mission to awaken souls and help save America, headquartered in the South. I recommend the Macil Duncan radio show because, as a former news journalist, I know how important it is to find credible sources in today's world gone mad. Join Macil Duncan on his show and me on social media such as Facebook at Star Spangled Chick to find out why loving and protecting America has never been more vital in the history of the USA.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today? The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how.
Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school.
So we've already heard that, but I just want to encourage you guys to be kind. I know what it's like to be bullied in school. When I was in high school, there were some folks who took great pleasure in bullying me. Came to my homeroom desk, and I had a T-shirt, had my football and basketball number, and said Macil's a queer, because I had decided to save myself from marriage. I was a virgin. And so there was a lot of hostility. My best friends at the time turned their backs and took a vow of silence on me. And I share at youth camps and youth retreats sometimes how to deal with bullying and how to handle rejection, because in high school that's a tough thing when all your BVD buddies, your pals, turn on you, and you walk the halls alone, my friend. I know what that's like. Be told not to sit with them at the lunch table anymore. But God gave me a whole new set of friends. And if you want to check out my book, Move Your Mountains, I talk about some of that and how you as well, making Jesus your best friend is the best way to go. And then in time, God gave me better friends, people that were real friends. And not all of them went to my school. Matter of fact, my youth group became my real friend base. And most of them went to Hickson High School. And what is funny, I could have rode a bike to Hickson High School. I had to ride a bus to Red Bank. If I, looking back now, I'm surprised my parents didn't put me at Hickson High School. It was at the bottom of the hill. I lived on Boy Scout Road. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I had a lot of friends over at Hickson. And I dated girls from Hickson. Hickson was more of a social acceptable place for me than my high school. But I did get to play sports, had some other good memories at Red Bank. But if you've ever been bullied, ever been ostracized, made fun of, humiliated, I know what it's like. But it makes you stronger. So understand this, God allows things in your life. And I could go hug all those guys now and say, guys, you prepare me for ministry, because let me tell you, go pastor or be on staff at a typical Southern Baptist church back in the late 80s, early 90s, and early 2000s. That was nothing but power posturing. So I'm kind of blessed that I went through that. Well, as we get ready, the political race is tightening up. This is CBN News. See what you think.
With just 2 months to go, polls show the country is divided, with women favoring Vice President Kamala Harris and men leaning towards former President Donald Trump. This weekend, both candidates focusing their attention on the economy. Washington correspondent Caitlin Burke has details.
On Labor Day and every day, we celebrate the dignity of work. The dignity of work.
Now, the interesting thing is Kamala Harris, at the moment, has been flying on Air Force One. That's been lightly mentioned. Some people are a little concerned. But what's going on in the election? Do we have a candidate that's pulling ahead? Well, it depends on who you ask. Now, the interesting thing is, Walz, who is the vice president, he's the governor of Wisconsin. He's the VP pick for Harris. He has a brother named Tim. Guess who Tim's voting for? He's not voting for Harris. This is interesting. Jeff Walz, the brother of Tim Walz, reportedly backs Donald Trump for the upcoming election. Journalist Laura Loomer claims Jeff is dissatisfied with Tim Walz's political role. And he has posted things on social media. Exclusive update, Tim Walz's brother Jeff responds to my report by condemning all of Walz's ideologies and saying he's thinking about getting on stage at a Trump rally to tell stories about his brother Tim Walz and his poor character. Jeff Walz made a Facebook post demonizing his brother and his beliefs. Laura Loomer also said Jeff donated to the Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, citing FEC records. So that has been proven. So the brother of vice president candidate, Mr. Walz, is saying he is a Trumper. He says, we've just become a third world banana republic, Jeff Waltz said, talking about our country. And this was March 30th, 2023. And for him to remark on that, he must have a pretty conservative viewpoint, thinking that we are a banana republic, if you will. And so Jeff Waltz also said, Michael Paul Spinetti, have a talk with your brother. And this is his response. He said, Jeff Waltz said to Michael Paul Spinetti, haven't spoke to him in 8 years. I'm 100% opposed to all his ideology. My family wasn't given any notice that he was selected and denied security the days after. So family's not behind Mr. Waltz. The tampon Tim, if you will, seems to be out there on an island when it comes to his family. So a lot of folks are saying, well, hey, I think the unsung hero right now that many are starting to listen to is Shanahan. She is the lady that was divorced from the Google founder. She's become very rich. She gave $100 million to the Democrats. Okay? This election cycle, she's given $100 million to the Democrats, and she has now walked away with Kennedy to support Donald Trump. Here she is on the Chris Como show a few days back.
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Chris? Good to see you.
Thank you for taking this opportunity. And first, what do you make of my lament and exposure of how much money is now motivating the game?
It's refreshing to see, Chris. You just did a really great breakdown. $10 billion estimated to go into this campaign. What is that money being used for? Well, I can tell you, it's being used to take out opponents. And I can tell you the Democrats, even though they've raised less from their top 10 donors, they've put an enormous amount of money compared to the Republicans to take out third parties. PACs specifically designed to take them out. We haven't had any of that from the Republican Party, and that has been a real learning experience for us. Could have never expected it, anticipate it, but it had a really big impact on me and how I've been trying to assess where that party actually is today, where the Republican Party is. Neither is great, as you mentioned. Both kind of are in the pockets of big business, but there are certain principles that are foundational to protecting our democracy. I think one of those principles is allowing third parties to have a free and fair opportunity to compete. And the lesson here today is that, you know, we're at a time where, as a third party, we had to decide if we were going to create a coalition. We had to figure out what our priorities were going to be. We were going to stick to our script around chronic health. That is our #1 priority, has always been. And so here we are today.
So she goes on to have that, but she went out and made this. This is a big one. Check out this minute 50-second ad that's all over the internet. It's Ask Your Doctor About Independence. This is put out by Miss Shanahan. She paid for this.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing Independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, Independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like,
Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy.
And I instantly believed it. With Independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech, silences political opponents, supports forever wars, and abandons democracy by anointing its candidates.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, Independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
So how about that? So independence, and they were an independent, presidential run. Very well played, very well put together, and I think it's rather interesting that she came up for that. And I've got a song here for the Kennedys and Trump. See what you think. So that's from Footloose, as you guys may remember back in the day. I was in high school when that came out. But lyrics here for the boy, and that's I think what's going on here. The boys are getting together. It's kind of like a band, if you will. You've got Donald Trump, Vance, and Kennedy, and then they started adding on some of these others, which are rather interesting. You've got Tulsi Gabbard. And I thought what was cool was Kennedy posted on social media when Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Trump a few days after Kennedy and Shanahan did. He said, "Welcome to the Justice League, Wonder Woman." So think about all the Democrats that have walked away from the Democratic Party. Trump was once a Democrat. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, walked away from the Democrat and has endorsed Trump. You've got Kennedy, who's from political royalty in the Democrats. He's walked away and endorsing Trump. Shanahan, his VP, who is also the spouse of the founder of Google. Then you have Tulsi Gabbard, former Hawaii congresswoman. That's a very liberal state. And for her to walk away, a former Bernie Sanders supporter, to endorse Trump. That's a lot of Democrats, and Vivek and so many others. That it's just amazing, the attraction to him. Now, as you noticed, the report said women are being drawn to Kamala and men are being drawn to Donald Trump. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because I know in time there will be, I guess, there'll be some people here and there trying to portray things. But here's a young lady on the street, and she was being interviewed by a blonde liberal progressive.
Trump's rhetoric has clearly had an effect on her in an astonishing way.
Have you decided who you want to vote for?
Honestly, no. I'm leaning towards Trump.
And why is that?
A lot of the stuff Kamala says is kind of like what Trump has said, like no taxes on tips was something that was kind of reiterated by Trump beforehand. She's just kind of been caught up in a lot of lies.
Like what?
I think lying about her heritage was one of them.
You think she lied about her heritage?
Yeah, I believe she's just Indian. I don't think she's black.
She is always identified as black. She is half Indian.
Well, I think that's something we can definitely agree to disagree on.
And the reporter then slams her when she goes back to the to the mothership. So this is interesting. A woman of color says we'll have to agree to disagree. I don't think a lot of black folks are liking that she's using the black card, if you will, just to win an election. Don't forget Kamala Harris, when she became a senator, and I think it was 2015-16, she was celebrated as the first Indian senator. She didn't put, by the way, I'm also got black heritage. She said she embraced her Indian heritage, and she was noted as the first Indian senator in American history. Okay? So you got to keep that stuff in mind when you're looking at some of this stuff and trying to be open-minded, because if you're not careful, you'll allow yourself to be influenced by people. For instance, like a George Clooney. George Clooney, he is a lip-lock liberal, and listen to one of his points here. He's pretty much for forced vaccinations.
I support mandatory vaccines, period. I support mandatory vaccines. Mandatory vaccines. Mandatory vaccines, period. I think every company should do it. Listen, I don't care. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day about the polio vaccine. Polio vaccine.
Why don't you stop talking for a while?
Georgie was at the Venice Film Festival and proved that he's even dumber than we thought.
What you think was the impact of the op-ed you wrote for the New York Times asking President Biden to step down, which he eventually did?
You know, I've actually never had to answer that question, so I suppose I'll do it here. The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington, and that's true.
That is the most selfless thing since George Washington. Pelosi went on to say he belongs to be on Mount Rushmore. Why? Because he has a record for the most poo-poo diapers in the White House? This guy has been a vegetable from day one. He's made no policy, no change. Not to mention his son has got a lot. But so George Clooney is not somebody I think to be looked at or admired. That's just me. I could be wrong. You guys might admire him, but I do not. I can't watch his movies anymore. I find him to be quite offensive and anti-American. That's just me. But some people can look past certain things, but someone like him, it just bothers me that he's allowed to do what he does, and so that's just me. That is just me. Let's see. Nope, not that one. We had a clip here. Yeah, this is you might find this interesting. Moms for Liberty. I usually have Moms for America, Maria Wagner. But Moms for Liberty did an interview with Donald Trump. See what you think.
They want to change everything. These people are sick. It's crazy.
So, President Trump, our moms are busy women, and they have families and busy lives.
This is Tiffany Justice, Moms for Liberty co-founder. I don't think she's one of the ones that got in the triangle thingy, okay? I think because she's the dark-haired one. The blonde one was the...
Right, and many of them never thought that they would get involved in politics and run. Did you ever think about running for office at other times in your lives? And then just some advice, because you come under fire a lot. Our moms are standing for things that often the media attacks them on. We'd love to get some advice from you about running for office.
Yeah, so I would say don't do it.
No, run for office. We want you to run for office.
I do say this, though. It is nastier to run as a Republican than it is. Now, I'm the ultimate, they suffer from a thing called TDS. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
TDS, it's a horrible, horrible terminal disease. It destroys the mind. It destroys the mind before the body, but the body eventually goes. TDS is Trump derangement syndrome. They have it at levels. They can't even stand their life. They can't stand anything.
And now a brief example of the worst cases of Trump derangement syndrome.
Don't.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Preserve, protect, and defend
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
This is a great day for everybody. This is a great, great day.
But you know, in the Democratic convention, Kennedy brought out that the Democrats used Donald Trump's name 147 times the first night, just in one night. He's living rent-free in their heads. Okay? So Donald Trump used Biden's name twice the whole week of the Republican convention. But they used Donald Trump's name in a negatory way, if you will, 346 times, but 147 on the first night. So it's interesting. They do have Donald Trump derangement syndrome. And again, here's part of that commercial that Nicole Shanahan put out about the need to cure this.
You or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing Independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, Independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like,
Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy.
and I instantly believed it. With Independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who...
And that's just half of the commercial. You can go listen to it. But Nicole Shanahan is, she's a progressive. She's very left, okay? She gave $100 million to the Democrats this year alone. She's very wealthy. Her husband was she divorced, runs Google. Tells you how much money she probably has. Okay, for me to write $100 million to a party and then walk away from it, that is a big walk, my friends. But think about that. She's got character and principle. To have that big of a checkbook and to try to invest, and what they were trying to do is get them to accept Kennedy as a potential candidate or to allow him be a part of the Democratic Party, and they said no because he didn't fit their ideology, especially with him going against the health issues. And they make a lot of money because of the pharmaceuticals. He has fought Big Pharma a lot, and he's an environmentalist lawyer. Now, I'm telling you, Kennedy is pro-choice. I wouldn't agree with him on that. There's a lot of things I don't agree with him on. But I will tell you this. He has got the ability, I think, to bring something special to the Trump ticket. And I'm interested to see how it's going to play out. That's just me. Well, another interesting person that has to deal with derangement syndrome is Caitlin Clark, as she's pretty much locked up Rookie of the Year. Here's a clip about Caitlin Clark right at the end. See what you think.
Some more coming. Clark with the step back and gets fouled. 3 free throws coming as Onion Nwede. Last 6 for the Fever. The Sky shooting 38%. Caitlin Clark, another three-pointer. Enemy territory gets this kind of salute as she exits the game.
Is this enemy territory? Because is this enemy territory? Is this enemy territory? Is this enemy territory?
This was she was at the Chicago Sky, where Angel Reese, some have nicknamed her Demon Reese, because her and her team have put the most fouls, the flagrant fouls, on Caitlin Clark this year. Caitlin Clark is the most fouled, flagrant foul player in the league, and many of them from Chicago Sky. There's jealousy. And in the arena there in Chicago, she got such an ovation when she left the game that the announcers were saying, isn't this enemy territory? And the other announcer says, is it? Because there were more Caitlin Clark jerseys than anyone. So Angel Reese is going to have to realize there is no race anymore. Caitlin Clark is Rookie of the Year. And Caitlin Clark now is in the running for MVP. Interesting.
Territory gets this kind of salute as she exits the game.
Is this enemy territory? Because I've seen a lot of Caitlin Clark jerseys.
Greatness.
I see a lot of Caitlin Clark jerseys, what she said, and I thought that was interesting. So Caitlin Clark is making a way, and it's going to be interesting. I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't heard already, if you can try to say the quarterback's last name for Tennessee, call into 629-282-1776. Here is On the Streets in Knoxville trying to say the last name of the quarterback for Tennessee.
His last name. We went out to Market Square to find out.
Nico Lamaleva.
Lamaleva. Lamaleva. Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaliava?
So how about you, friend? Can you say his last name? Call me at 629-282-1776. That's 629-282-1776. Leave us a 30-second message. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and how to say the quarterback's name for Tennessee. You can also call 629-282-1776 and tell us why you love America or why you love the Macil Duncan Show. Again, 629-282-1776. And we appreciate all that like and share the show and tell your friends. There is a new movie coming out, and it's called City of Dreams. Vivek Swamy, if you will, has helped invest in this, and it is another film battling child sex trafficking. Here's a little bit.
I'm Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm an executive producer on City of Dreams. I'm Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm an executive producer on City of Dreams. I think this is one of the most important movies of our time. It's inspired by a true story of a young man who comes to the United States of America on false pretenses, and he's sold into slavery. Yes, you heard that right, slavery. I know we were taught to believe that that ended in the United States in the 1860s, but the reality is it exists today in a new form.
We'll talk about that when we come back.
Hi, this is Rhonda Tate. I'm from Chickamauga, Georgia. And I love listening to your show because you tell all the truth. And you're God-fearing and God-loving man. And I also love the Lord. And thank you for all that you do. I appreciate it.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Thank you, and we're back. You know, when it comes to fighting crime, he's never going to roll over. He's McGruff the crime dog.
Roll over. You're okay, George.
Thanks.
And I got 2 words to make your neighborhood safer.
Uh-huh.
Coffee cake.
Ah, the old poison coffee cake trick. The cook takes a bite, falls down to the ground.
Oh, it's for your neighbors.
You want to poison your neighbors?
No, never.
Oh, thank goodness.
No, for 25 years, I've been giving tips about preventing crime. One of them is to invite people over for a cup of coffee and share the problems you see on your street and what to do about them.
That's great.
You can invite your local police officer to help, too.
You know, I hear they're very fond of donuts.
No, that's just a myth.
Oh, well, I'd come to your doghouse for coffee cake in a safer neighborhood.
Now you're talking. You can and cut down on crime by not just locking your door, but opening up to your neighbors.
Still, a 10-pound bunt cake dropped on a bad guy's foot could help.
It couldn't hurt. And going to weprevent.org for other tips could help too.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, the National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Okay, everybody, it's time for another game of Who Wants to Volunteer in Your Community? Let's go to Ella in Santa Monica, California.
Hey, wait, I don't want to volunteer.
Well, I have a feeling you'll change your mind when you realize how much fun volunteering really can be.
But
in fact, Ella, we've asked your entire algebra class here to tell you more.
Wait, you did what?
Take it away, class.
Hey, Ella, we've been noticing you lately in algebra class.
You have?
I'm feeling some love here.
Yeah, and we were thinking that you should start tutoring people because you're all, like, smart and stuff. I should?
Yeah, you free tonight?
Go for it.
I should.
They love you, Ella. Well, sounds like we have another happy volunteer.
That's me.
To find out ways you can volunteer in your community, log on to teensvolunteer.org and join us next time for another episode of Who Wants to Volunteer in Your Community? Do what you like to do. Volunteer. A public service message brought to you by the USA Freedom Corps, the U.S. Department of Justice, the Crime Prevention Coalition of America, and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hello, my friends. This is Macil Duncan, and welcome back to the Macil Duncan Show. We are blessed to be with so many wonderful people. We're carried by USAHeartbeat.com and StreetLevelAmerica.com, and they have me now in 37 states across the country and Mexico and Canada. There's also the MacilDuncanRadio.com. If you go to MacilDuncanRadio.com, it connects you with our X, our Rumble, Locals.com. You can also go to MacilDuncanRadio.com and find out more about my book and about things we're doing with Facebook and all the social media, Revolver Media out of Indiana, DestinyLifeMedia.com, SGM in Alabama Radio carries the show, the New Jersey Freedom Network, the Tennessee Conservative Network, and God in Politics platform, etc. We're listed over 100,000, 150,000 minimum per show now, and we appreciate all that. Some of our shows have been tracked close to 490,000. So we appreciate all those that like and share the show, and tell them about there's a pastor in this country that loves God and loves this country and is not afraid to talk about it. The big issue, I think, that's underlying in the upcoming election is child sex trafficking. I personally think so. That's just me, but there's over 200 arrests of human sex trafficking here recently down in Orlando. I love this sheriff. He's my kind of guy.
A massive human trafficking bust in Polk County. The sheriff says they arrested 219 people. That's the most they've ever arrested. The week-long multi-agency operation began on September 19th. Two of the suspects from Chicago and Orlando were charged with human trafficking, which is a felony. 83 suspects were arrested for soliciting a prostitute, including a high school athletic director, a coach, and a few Disney employees.
This dude now is coaching
in the county jail. I can't believe that we'd want somebody like this around our children.
Sheriff Grady Judd says they also arrested 119 prostitutes. Another 21 possible human trafficking victims were also found.
So 200 arrests that were involved down in Orlando, Florida, and many of them Disney employees. My friend, don't be where you play is where you stay, okay? If you're going to be pretending to put queer and children's sexual illicit things in your movies and in your park and dress the part, then you probably in private play the part. That's just my opinion. Over 85,000 unaccompanied minors lost at the border. You guys remember this story?
Report shows a government agency that lost track of thousands of migrant teens and children who came across the border alone also cost Americans billions of dollars. Joining us this morning with the details, the CEO and founder of OpenTheBooks.com, Adam Andrzejewski. Good morning to you, Adam. Welcome to the National Desk again.
Good morning, Jan.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement lost more than 85,000 children. 85,000 children. 85,000 children. 85,000 children. And it's cost U.S. taxpayers more than $13 billion this past decade, according to your report. So give us a recap of your investigation, if you can.
Well, the loose open borders policy on our southern border has the unintended consequences of hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minor children crossing that border. Jan, over the course of the last 4 years, according to the department's numbers, there's been 340,000 of these unaccompanied children. That's a stunning number equivalent to the population of Honolulu, Hawaii.
340,000 unaccompanied kids. Did you check this out?
Unaccompanied children. That's a 340,000 of the department's numbers. There's been 340,000 of these unaccompanied children. That's a stunning number equivalent to the population of Honolulu, Hawaii.
So there's as many kids unaccompanied crossing the border as Honolulu, Hawaii. We got a problem in this country. Human sex trafficking. And Fox 11 reports on another case. And a lady that shares her story. Listen to this if you dare.
Well, Christine, this is an amazing story of survival and one that allows us to see just how easily a young girl can become a victim of human trafficking.
Immediately when I got in the car, I knew something was off.
Simone Miller was only 16 when she was kidnapped and trafficked by a man she had just met.
He was just like, I'm a pimp and you're my hoe and I'm gonna take you somewhere. You're gonna be given instructions on what to do and running is not an option.
She was taken to a hotel where other women were being held. Simone says the man who told her he was a rapper when she first met him warned her if she tried to escape, he would kill her mother and her grandmother.
If anybody knows me, like that's like my weakness, you know, because like my family is all I have.
As days went by, Simone was desperate to get out of this situation.
What can I do? What can I do? And I played along, and I had him thinking like I'm okay with it. You know, I put on this red lingerie.
The pimp let his guard down, and when he took a shower and left his cell phone on the bed, Simone made a quick phone call to her mother.
And I said, Mom, and she said, baby, where are you? And I said, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at, Mom. She just said, tell me what you see, Simone. I said, I'm like looking out the window of this hotel. I said, I see like a 7-Eleven. She's like, okay, what else do you see? I said, like I don't know, a Church's Chicken. She's like, okay, okay.
Somehow, with that brief description, her entire family hit different locations, searching for Simone until they found her outside of a 7-Eleven. Her captor was inside buying cigarettes, unaware his victim was about to be rescued.
All I could think was when this man gets out of this 7-Eleven, it's gonna be trouble.
Despite everything he put her through, Simone protected him, telling her family he wasn't the man who kidnapped her.
I still know that it wasn't right what he did, but I got in the car with him, you know what I mean? And I just didn't want them to kill him in front of me. And I kept saying, no, that's not him, that's not him.
It's been many years since that horrific experience. Simone is now a crisis interventionist at Teen Project, a nonprofit that helps survivors of human trafficking.
It's healing. Subconsciously, I'm healing by helping.
Such a strong young woman. Now, you may be wondering what happened to the man who took Simone. Well, her family let him go the night that she was rescued. He was later killed in an unrelated incident.
So that is the thing that that gets you. But this part right here, if you're a parent, if your child called you,
what can I do? What can I do? And I played along, and I had him thinking like I'm okay with it. You know, I put on this red lingerie.
The pimp let his guard down, and when he took a shower and left his cell phone on the bed, Simone made a quick phone call to her mother.
And I said, Mom, and she said, baby, where are you?
what have you got that phone call? I was a youth pastor in Mississippi, and a girl was abducted by an older man across the state lines. We called the FBI and got her back, but she wasn't the same.
Hi, this is Rob Mitchell, Rutherford County Assessor of Property, and I love to listen to the Macil Duncan Show because it's one of the few places that actually tells the citizens the truth about what's happening in their community and in America. I know that when I listen to Macil's show, I'm hearing the truth, and I'm hearing an honest man give an honest opinion. Thank you, and God bless you.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Little boy blue, come blow on your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. You've messed up again. What's the matter with you? Can't you do anything right? Worthless little brat.
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life.
Somebody's going to get hit.
Teach carefully. We can show you how. We're ACT, Adults and Children Together Against Violence. And if you're a parent or caregiver, we can help you teach your child how to rise above violence, not succumb to it. Visit actagainstviolence.org for details, or call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure. Call today, 877-ACT-WISE, and stop violence before it starts. This message brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Psychological Association, and the MetLife Foundation.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back, my friends. This is Macil Duncan, and welcome back to the Macil Duncan Radio Show, broadcasting live here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we appreciate this studio by USAHeartbeat.com radio. And we are broadcasting live into 37 states now, Mexico and Canada. We appreciate all the help and like sharing the show with the different platforms and stations that are partnering with us to take the Macil Duncan Show coast to coast. Well, CBN News, the 700 Club, asked a very good question about when everything shuts off, a possible future cyber war could plunge us into chaos.
This is the sound most people expect to hear in an attack on the American home front. But when war comes, we may only hear this: silence, when many of the things we rely upon stop working. The Commission on the National Defense Strategy recently warned senators the United States is unprepared for a devastating cyber war that will bring life in towns and cities across America to a standstill.
The public is essentially clueless about the massive cyber attacks that could be launched any day by our adversaries, not just nation states, but rogue actors as well.
Experts see the next war beginning with a keyboard attack on America's critical infrastructure, threatening to cut off internet, electricity, water, transportation, and financial systems. It would mean almost everything from phones to gas pumps to cash machines to traffic lights suddenly stop working.
We're very vulnerable.
Cybersecurity expert Dr. Samantha Ravitch served on Congress's Cyberspace Solarium Commission and as a deputy national security advisor in the Bush White House. She's especially concerned about the lack of protection at America's many municipal water stations.
A soft underbelly of our country is our water system. And those water utilities don't often have the best cybersecurity. They have old technology.
After a cyber strike on your local water plant, your water tap might not work or your water could become dangerous to drink. In 2021, it was reported that a hacker tried to poison the water supply of Oldsmar, Florida, by increasing the levels of sodium hydroxide. The city now claims it was operator error, but in the last year, foreign actors from Iran and Russia have been linked to water facility attacks in Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Texas.
So can we be open to these kind of attacks? The FBI has warned us at least 7 times. Christopher Wray has said that there's enough that have crossed the border. We do have sleeper cells. I repeat, sleeper cells in America. He says the chances that we'll have a conflict on American soil is very high, and he's warned Congress about this. Now, because the media is not our friend and they don't like to be in unity when it comes to constructive or good news, all they want to do is feed you how bad Trump is or how to take a particular new big pharma product. That's all they're concerned in. It's all about money and manipulation. So finding out truth, how do you find the truth? And that's even harder when we're finding out that China has got a thing called spamouflage. What is spamouflage? It's using spam into social media to make you doubt using AI and other technologies what is true, especially with the upcoming U.S. election.
As the 2024 presidential election draws nearer, China is stepping up its attempts to influence American voters' decision. A new report shows a rise in what's known as spamouflage, with accounts claiming to be U.S. voters and soldiers posting about hot-button issues, including reproductive rights, U.S. support for Ukraine, and America's policy toward Israel. These spamouflage accounts criticize both President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as former President Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Researchers say they sometimes even use artificial intelligence tools to create divisive content.
So with that said, there seems to be a lot of folks concerned about this, and even California has put together a new let's see how to put, California passes a new landmark bill on AI replication of deceased performers.
California lawmakers passed groundbreaking legislation requiring consent for AI replication of dead performers. The bill is a significant victory for SAG-AFTRA in its ongoing fight against what it sees as unchecked AI usage in entertainment. As the entertainment industry grapples with the implications of AI technology, the legislation requires consent from the owner of the estate before a dead actor or performer's likeness can be replicated by artificial intelligence, aiming to protect performers' rights in the digital age and shape the future relationship between artificial intelligence and creative professionals. The bill covers a wide range of media, including films, TV shows, video games, audiobooks, commercials, and sound recordings.
So with artificial intelligence on the rise, there seems to be a lot of concern, and rightfully so. I think a lot of people have a concern about, hey, how are we going to control this? And even Facebook is still censoring, despite Zuckerberg's admission, because there seems to be a problem with AI in this social media to a point they're claiming they don't know who is real and who is fraudulent.
Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has finally admitted what many of us suspected all along. Senior Biden administration officials pressured him repeatedly to censor COVID-19 information posted on Facebook and Instagram. Do you remember? You couldn't discuss vaccine efficacy, masks, or ivermectin effectiveness in combating the virus. If you shared opinions counter the government narrative, you risk banishment from social media. I recently talked with legal scholar GW Law professor Jonathan Turley. He writes about Facebook censorship in his latest book, The Indispensable Right, Free Speech in an Age of Rage. I asked him if he thought the Biden administration pressure was illegal. He believes it was unconstitutional.
Plays a critical role in what is an unprecedented alliance we have in this anti-free speech movement today of the government, corporations, the media, and academia. But Facebook was the big dog on the block. And for years, Zuckerberg and Facebook and Meta opposed efforts to release files on censorship. So Elon Musk has been attacked unrelentingly after he released the Twitter files that showed this massive censorship system.
So isn't that interesting, as CBN reports, that Twitter was very complicit in meeting weekly with the United States government, CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, etc., had employees or agents there trying to control the narrative of the news. There was a time when Twitter was the if you want to call it, the controller, if you will, and the other NPRs that came out at 4:30 in the morning would replicate the Twitter movement. If you remember back in the day, when you watched your Fox, CNN, your MSNBCs, they would put literal Twitter quotes from famous people or politicians underneath. And then when Donald Trump took advantage of that and used Twitter to his advantage in the 2016 campaign, they banned him from 2020. And it's been different ever since. Then Elon Musk buys Twitter, renames it X, and tries to establish free speech. Well, Telegram's founder, as you guys know, and owner, was arrested in France for allowing free speech. They're claiming child sex traffickers, drug users, and stuff. But it's kind of hard to tell if the government's telling the truth on that. It's also the preferred network for QAnon people, patriots that believe that this country is going through, if you will, a silent war behind the scenes with the deep state and the shadow government. So their way of communicating was Telegram, because unlike Meta or other avenues, they didn't feel censored. So you've got that, and then X just got censored by a foreign country. So they are going after the two platforms that have pushed free speech. Telegram and X are being attacked by foreign entities. Don't be too surprised if it doesn't then come to American soil. Don't forget the Ministry of Truth, and I had the article, I don't have it up right now, that they tried to start and put Kamala Harris over. Go look that up. The Ministry of Truth. They were going to try to dictate what was allowed on the internet, and it failed miserably because Republicans maintained control of the Congress. But there was a Ministry of Truth, and go back and read 1984, the book that talks about the what we're seeing today, and it's rather interesting. So as you see that and you hear that, you start realizing there is a censorship across the world right now, and the globalists, that's what they want. They don't want us to become, if you want to call it, independent. Now, Canada is turning away people at its border. This was very interesting.
Canada is turning away more people at its borders and approving fewer visas, according to new government data obtained by Reuters. The new data showing a crackdown at the country's border comes as there is a growing dissatisfaction from Canadians in how Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal government has been handling immigration.
So you're seeing a crackdown at the northern border for America, which is Canada, and Kamala promising crackdowns on the southern border. Are these two progressive trying to put something over on you and I? We'll talk about it when we come back.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Hi, my name is Beverly Reynolds. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I just wanted to let you know that I feel it's important to have the Macil Duncan radio show. I listen to him and support him completely because he tells the truth that we don't hear on mainstream media concerning local, state, national, world happenings. He talks about our nation that was formed as one nation under God with the inclusion of individuals' God-given rights. He speaks about God, our creator. He talks about our Constitution that guarantees those rights. And the people need to get involved in their freedom, liberty, and regaining and retaining and protecting their constitutional rights. So I believe everyone should hear his show. They should get involved, whether it's physical, it's prayer, whatever. They need to get involved and pay attention to what's going on, and he's putting that word out there. He's a true Christian patriot, and I wish all Americans could hear his show. Thank you.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's.
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep. and my dorky dad hat, and I'm going to do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it.
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up. See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time.
What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
All those smiling, happy faces, laughing, enjoying life. Then I turn the TV off, and I'm back to reality. The faces here are not so happy after the spill. I mean, just look around. The fourth-generation shop owner who'd give anything to turn on his dusty open sign. The fisherman with the 1,000-mile stare. People of the Gulf region have been through a lot, and we're pretty good at bouncing back, but we can all use some help from time to time. If you're experiencing increased anxiety, worry, or anger, you should know that the assistance you may need to help you cope is here. For confidential counseling, call 800-985-5990. 800-985-5990. Or text TALK WITH US to 66746. With help, you won't need a TV to see a smiling face, only a mirror. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council. Message and data rates may apply.
I've had trouble with Angel trying to finish high school. He's always struggled through even elementary. It would be frustrating because sometimes I would talk to him and he wouldn't even turn around and look at me. I would ask him, so you're going to school today, right? He would say, yeah. And then later during the day, I would get a phone call saying he wasn't in class. He dropped out for a whole month. There's a time that I just gave up. I just decided, you know what, I don't know what to do with you. I mean, I pretty much have done everything to try to get you back to school. You know, you feel that maybe you're not a good parent, or maybe you don't know how to fix the problem. I really didn't have many people to look to but myself. Now I think that it's gotten a lot better. Now I at least have hope that he'll finish high school. I can't give up. He's still my son. You know, I can't give up.
Give your teen the boost they need to graduate. Call 1-877-4A-KID or join us at boostup.org for tips and advice. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Welcome back, my friends. This is Macil Duncan, live from Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is the Macil Duncan Show, and we appreciate you being a part of the show. We've been saying all day, if you call in at 629-282-1776, try to pronounce the quarterback of Tennessee. Here's a news crew in Knoxville that went to the streets, and they didn't do too well either.
It's square to find out.
Nico Lamalevia.
Lamaleva. Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Try again.
Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaliava.
Nico Yamamaliva.
So if you want to learn how to say the quarterback's name, of course, you can go and he says it on Twitter himself. But we're having a little challenge. Who can say the name of the quarterback for Tennessee? He is a freshman this year. He broke a record this past Saturday. I happened to be there with my good friend Doug Henshaw, and we watched the quarterback just light it up. And call 629-282-1776. That's 629-282-1776 if you happen to know how to pronounce that name. Now, Tennessee happens to be ranked number 12 now. We've climbed up a couple of spots from 15 to 12. Number 1 in the nation is Georgia. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Texas. Number 4 is Alabama. Number 5, Ole Miss. Number 6 is Oregon. 7 is Notre Dame. 8, Penn State. Number 9 is Michigan. Number 10, Missouri. 11, Utah. And 12 is Tennessee. And 13, Oklahoma. Now, we play NC State this week, and then we play Oklahoma. And if we play Oklahoma at Oklahoma, that's a return to Heupel. The head coach of Tennessee played at Oklahoma. So this all could be very interesting if you like football. And notice as you go through there, all the SEC teams. Very interesting. Well, as we're looking at the Federalist, now forgotten climate crisis was just a cynical ploy for Democrats to gain power. If you go back and watch any of the highlights of the Democratic Convention, there was I guess, a little bit of amnesia. There was no talk of climate change and end of the world as they've done for the past few decades, because climate crisis and climate change is becoming more and more disproven and unbelievable these days ahead. So it's interesting that the Democrats have abandoned that topic because it's not a vote getter. Do you remember Gretchen, who said, "How dare you"? All of her tweets she is completely deleting because all of her predictions have not happened. We haven't destroyed the world in 5 years, like she said. And Al Gore's book or movie, Inconvenient Truth, is all fiction. Now it's been enough years that everything Al Gore predicted also, just like Greta Thunberg, was a falsaroo. So just keep that in mind as you're making those decisions. Well, the FBI arrests former Deputy Chief of Staff, New York, Kathy Hochul, for acting as an agent in Chinese Communist government. Her and her husband were both arrested by the FBI. The governor of New York claims she fired her a while back after seeing unsavory behavior. She has been arrested for money laundering, human trafficking, and other things against America, if you will. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. And you can go back and check, but New York is a mess. Blaze Media and others are reporting now that the police of New York City say 75% of arrests happen in New York City by illegal aliens. They are arresting 75% of their arrests are illegal aliens, and they're saying it's becoming very odd because when they are a sanctuary city, they're not allowed to seek help from ICE or the federal government. That is so crazy. If you are a sanctuary city, you are prohibited from turning in, especially if there are known murderers, rapists, or other main things that just happen to pop up. You can't. It's against the law for a city, a sanctuary city like New York, to cooperate with the federal government. Let that sink in. That is so crazy. Go to Blaze Media if you'd like to read more about that. But disgraced and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo set to testify publicly before Congress for the first time on COVID-19 nursing home scandal that killed tens and thousands of seniors. Many of us remember those days because it appeared that people were placed in nursing homes that were sick, and it infected many healthy senior adults who later contracted COVID because they put in. Now, if you remember, he said the hospitals were full, so they were using nursing homes. Why would you put sick people in nursing homes? Does not make sense. And this is just now going to be looked at. I think this is a little late, but at least something is being done. So, Governor, I hope the truth comes out, sir. And if you did that in a malicious way, may they prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Old folks should not be made guinea pigs. Well, this is a big story of the day. Covenant shooter entire diary has been published, revealing obsession with white privilege transgenderism. The diary did not contain detailed plan of the shooting, which the FBI cited as a reason for not releasing the text till now. The Tennessee Star on Tuesday published the nearly 100-page journal of 28-year-old who killed 3 adults and 3 children at the Covenant Christian School in Nashville, Tennessee. The journal offers a glimpse into the minds of self-proclaimed autistic person prone to depression and obsession. The shooter's two most animated obsessions were left-wing ideas about transgenderism, including the idea that children will kill themselves if they cannot get gender surgery. That's not true. And also, she was also on this white privilege kick. So the two themes converge in an overall format in her journal, which often takes the form of a diary entries addressed to a brown girl with whom the shooter was in love with. The shooter reportedly played basketball with the girl in 8th grade and had not remained in contact but created a race-based idea of the girl in her mind and fantasized. The diary entries detailed how the shooter's autistic brain struggled with different ideas like white privilege. That, of course, is taught in so many of these critical race theory classes. I think each and every teacher in her path that taught her that should be held accountable. On February 7, 2023, a month before the shooting, the shooter drew a diagram and said the brain, white privilege, equals embarrassment of self. The shooter wrote a poem about her longing for interracial sex, noting that in the nearly 100-page journal appears to justify FBI's claim that it was withholding the name of public safety. Nashville City Council member Courtney Johnson told the New York Post that the FBI said the manifesto couldn't be released because it was a blueprint on total destruction, and it was so detailed at the level of what she had planned. The document had no plans and no such thing, so the FBI lied. Shockaroo. Okay, a police inventory says there has 2 journals on the shooter's desk, 1 under her desk and 7 under the bed. So it's possible that such information was maybe in another journal. I don't know. That's not the one they released. The Tennessee Star editor-chief Michael Patrick Leahy filed a lawsuit under the Tennessee Public Records Act seeking release of the writings, and the Nashville judge blocked the release of even a single page, saying the diaries were copyrighted. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see. Land of the free, she wrote, means whatever effort is taking away human rights is not humans at all. This girl was major messed up. So that is the Daily Wire. The Gateway Pundit's quick analysis was brown love is the most beautiful kind. Breaking, all 90 pages of Nashville transgender shooter Audrey Hale manifesto is released. All 90 pages of the Nashville transgender shooter Audrey Hale released by the Tennessee Star on Tuesday. Pretty much the same thing. And here's a quote, an excerpt from the manifesto. If God won't give me a boy body in heaven, then Jesus is a faggot. I can't be happy. I am meant to die. No brown girls, no love. Brown love is the most beautiful kind. So she evidently had a big fantasy with a young girl of color she had met in school. Now, my Georgia Bulldog reporter sent this to me, and I think it's very interesting. It says, this is a tweet or an X by Jack Posso. Audrey Hale told Vanderbilt therapists she wanted to commit a mass shooting at school. Vanderbilt Psych never reported the incident as they're supposed to. So this is more breaking news that the Vanderbilt psychologist had this information about this Audrey Hale wanting to commit a mass shooting, and has evidently said so for the past 6 years. And this is his Twitter. Breaking, Vanderbilt Psychiatrist Unit was treating Audrey Hale for 22 years. Since she was 6 years old, she was never reported law enforcement as high risk, and this is a shame that this was not reported and told to the people. I've got some some clips here, but I don't think I can play it this time. I don't know if I've listened to all of them. I would hate for anything to be played over the air that might not be suitable for the family. But anyway, here's another one. Breaking. Let's see what this one says. Full Nashville transfesto of Audrey Hale has been released, implicating Vanderbilt University that had counseled her for 22 years and her desire to do a mass shooting. That, my friend, is probably what they're protecting. I bet all this time, that manifesto, the main thing they were doing is the money cow, because the Vanderbilt University is named after, of course, the Vanderbilts, the Biltmore House that you've probably been to, etc. The white-haired guy on CNN, he's a Vanderbilt. You probably knew that. And his brother mysteriously died. The mother was very ritualistic in some of these weird religious practices. But anyway. So Vanderbilt University had been treating Audrey Hale for 22 years. And on many occasions talked about mass shooting, having a desire to have sex with people of color and wanting to kill people. Don't know. So what say you, America? Do you think that is appropriate? I know there's client privilege, that kind of thing. I know a lot of people get into that. But when somebody says, hey, I think I'm going to kill somebody, I think there's a problem. Axios put out a new report I think is very interesting. Schools are rethinking homework. How about this, parents? Did you know that it was, not by coincidence, but schools had said quit using homework for the kids' mental health? Interesting, is it not? 37% of 13-year-old students said they had no homework assignment as of 2023. In 2020, the figure was 29%, and in 2012, it was 21%. So it's grown up. There has been a push by the teachers union not to send on homework since 2012 because they used the guise of mental health and stress issues. But what it seemed to be to me and many others is that they didn't want parents to know what the kids were learning. So if you don't take textbooks or home material home, parents are clueless. The one thing, the silver lining of COVID, when they did the home learning, many parents were listening what the teachers were teaching through the Zoom call. Now, the interesting thing is there were some teachers that actually told parents, you need to leave the room. This is my time with the children, and you're not allowed. And one lady is reported saying back through the Zoom, excuse me, you're in my house as a guest through Zoom. I will stay here now, especially after that statement, and I'm going to listen to everything you got to say. Teachers were upset, claiming parents were violating their confidentiality rights with the children. So there's been a battle, and it goes back to me when Hillary Clinton said that children are wards of the state. After they turn age of 5 and they enter the first grade, the parents no longer have the final say on certain matters of the child's life. So if you go into some school districts, especially in blue states, parents are not allowed in buildings and classrooms, and particularly to see the literature that children are being taught. Now, my good friend Harmony, that's called from California, if you remember, she explained in California, they were dropping kids off, and she thought it was normal. But if you had to go pick up your children, you rang the bell and wait outside. If it was bad weather, they'd let you step inside, but you were not allowed in the office area, and you definitely were not allowed to go to the kids' room. It didn't dawn on her till after COVID and doing some investigation, and thanks to Moms for America and other groups that helped enlighten her on her rights. She sent her 2 twins back to school and decided she didn't want them wearing masks anymore because COVID was over, but they still had a strict mask policy. So the teacher made an example of her twins, put the twins out on the playground in desk unsupervised for the rest of the day. They were giving assignments and left out there and were only brought in for lunch. They were not allowed recess with the other kids, and they had to sit at their desk as if they were being punished because they didn't want to wear masks. Well, there was a new school. I taught Harmony and several of them out there. It's called homeschooling. They now homeschool. They pulled the kids out, and it started a movement in that area. And Moms for America, homeschooling are now alive and well in that part of California. I tell you that because I think that's what's happening, and Axios is proving it. Now, Axios is not a conservative site, my friend. They lean left. And for them to print this, that homework is on the rise again, because I think a lot of parents want to know, what are you teaching my kid? They have every right to know. Now, if I was on the school board, Mr. Baker, who ran, I loved what he said. If he was on the school board, he would make unannounced visits and go check on schools, sit in classrooms, and go make his presence known in his district. Jody Schaefer, who I've been pulling for here in our district, I would encourage Jody. Now, she's a lawyer, and so is her husband, so they would know all the legal loopholes. But if a parent or a school board member cannot enter a public school and see what's being taught and how it's being taught, to me, that's a crime. The teacher and the administration should be charged. They're not your kids. You, my friends, are only there to teach the kids how to read, write, basic fundamentals, and you're not to be teaching them how to live life, how to have sexual orientation. That's not your job. And any public school teacher that tries to take over your role as a parent, I would remove your child as fast as you can. Homeschooling and private school is on the rise. Many feel in Hamilton County this is the year there will be more kids in private school and homeschooling than public school. The only things that's saving the public schools right now in Hamilton County is the wave of illegal children that are in the school system. They're not American citizens, but they have a lot, and I know this because I've got friends that told me up here at Appleton Elementary, they have a large group of kids that don't speak English, and they don't have enough teachers that speak Spanish. Savvy? So with that in mind, what's happening across the nation with the open borders to try to mask the mass exodus of children from public schools, they're putting in these kids from across the border. They're not American citizens. Now, I'm not one to see anyone hungry or malnourished go without being taken care of. But I do feel it's important that we have something of a standard. Now, I would be in favor personally if Donald Trump gets elected and he does away with the Board of Education. And before you go crazy, listen to my thinking. Just like on the abortion issue, push it back to the states. If you live in a wacky liberal state like Michigan, that's very blue and liberal, Oregon, California, expect that more than likely, if they get full control of the education system, it'll become more Marxist and terrible. But most likely, they'll leave and come to more sane. But see, competition, what had happened, even as bad as it will be for 5, maybe 6 years, they will see how crazy their doctrine is. And to compete with the Alabamas, Tennessee, Mississippis, etc., that are very conservative, they will have to work out something, because if you bring it back to the states and take away the federal mandates, but here's the problem with public education right now. They put a stipulation on federal funding based on you taking the testing. So to pass the test, you have to teach the crap. And the crap gets in the kid's brain. And then before you know it, these are kids hating their parents, hating America, and hating life, hating their gender. There's a problem with that. When they know other countries' flags more than American flag, and I know for a fact here in Hamilton County, one of my good friends, her and her husband, were appalled that their child was being taught how to salute and say other national anthems, but never said the American national anthem. at a teacher's meeting, when they said that, the teacher said, "Oh, well, the American flag doesn't fit inside of the flag holder." And the dad said, "Well, listen, I can go down to Ace. I can fix that tonight. What size you need?" Of course, when he offered that, that's when the other lie comes out, and eventually, because the daughter was saying, "Mom, we're learning all these, but why don't we ever put our flag in the flag?" And this was in Hamilton County, my friend, here in Tennessee. So you've got a battle. And if you do away with the public education, you're going to have to find a way to defund and do away with the teachers union. Now, to do that, to me, that would be very healthy. Some think that's going to be hard to do. No, it's not. You cut them off. No money. It's like no oxygen. You can't breathe. You don't live. Cut off the federal funding. That's going to take a very strong administration and a very strong leader. And that's who I think would be a great one. I think Donald Trump can do that. Could you imagine the day that the states took back control of their education and they could teach their kids, especially if they're in an agricultural area, how to farm again? If you're in certain areas, you should teach your children how to live in your area. And there's probably things that are being left out because you're so afraid of missing out on the federal funds. I have a good friend that was a sheriff here in the state, and he told me how if you didn't go along, sometimes they wouldn't give you toys for the boys. And I'm really hoping our sheriff doesn't do this. But what they do is they send you something and you sign off, because all sheriffs have independent, they're the really only true person you vote for now that has independence from the federal government. They're the last of it. If a sheriff wants to, the sheriff of Hamilton County is technically over Hamilton County. He outranks the police chief. He outranks anyone in law enforcement. If there was an emergency, the sheriff is in charge. Savvy? And I hope he knows that and remembers that. But some sheriffs are giving these special things from the governor and from the federal government. Hey, if you'll sign off on this, we're going to give you all these toys for the boys, but you're going to agree that you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that. And you're basically giving away some of your power as the sheriff of your area. Sheriffs read very carefully what you agree to, because the people voted you in, and we can vote you out. That's not a threat. It's just a promise. That's why we pay attention to what our politicians do. We take note of those on commissions, school boards, sheriffs, Congress, Senate. And if somebody gets way out of our values, you have to replace them. See, the problem is a lot of times people get in politics and all they hear from is the financial influencers. And when they don't hear from you and I, they just assume we're okay with them leaning with these people, because these people bribe politicians all the time. They don't call it bribing. Let's call it helping their charity or their, they get kickbacks. That's why so many of you voters, we have talks. I mean, out in public, hey, who you voting for, Macil? Or tell me who to vote for. And I always say, listen, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'll tell you who I'm voting for and why, if you ask. I don't like to tell people who to vote for, but I am amazed at how people today feel so conflicted with what is true and what is not. And they feel a need to know, hey, well, I didn't realize judges were on the ballot. What do you know about these candidates, and what do we know? And I said, well, that's where you get these voters. There's Christian voter guides out there. You can get many of them online, especially if it's a state or national candidate. If it's a local candidate, sometimes you have to do more research. But don't go to the voting booth unaware of what's on the ballot. You can go to your election commission and see the things you're voting on. sometimes they'll put something on there and they don't quite publicize it, hoping that the shock of the issue, you'll just vote yes. But you need to look at what you're voting on. Things like liquor license, can come up very quickly. Zoning changes. There's things that can come up, and if you've not been informed, now they're legally told, especially if you live in an area with a commissioner, they have to announce public meetings. But sometimes they think, hey, if I post it on Facebook, in font 5, for 2 days, and no one sees it, well, they were warned. But if it's something they really want, they'll put it in font 100 and put it in the Chattanooga Times and Free Press, and they get you out there. I'm not going to tell that story. I know it's a very factual story, but it would embarrass somebody, so I don't want to do that. That's not my job. Only unless I have to. I try not to embarrass people. That's not something that you want to do. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles say, no, we don't endorse Kamala Harris. Check this out.
The Philadelphia Eagles kick off their 2024 season this Friday in the first NFL game ever to be played in Brazil. And as the Eagles prepare to face the Green Bay Packers abroad, they are facing another issue off the field here at home, tackling a problem described by the team as counterfeit political ads. In multiple locations across Philly, posters have been popping up showing an image of Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris holding a football and wearing an Eagles jersey with the caption reading, "Kamala, official candidate of the Philadelphia Eagles." The poster features a link to the Eagles website's voting information section. While that link is the real deal, the Eagles say the poster and the endorsement are not.
So the Eagles had to go out of their way to say we do not endorse Kamala Harris, but somebody is putting these posters up all over the city of Philadelphia, implying that the Philadelphia Eagles have endorsed Kamala Harris. That's some of the spamiflage that they were talking about in Straight Arrow News that people are doing during this election cycle. So we've got to be wise with that and understand that that's part of what's going on because China has willfully admitted they're involved in this spamiflage. See what you think.
As the 2024 presidential election draws nearer, China is stepping up its attempts to influence American voters' decision. A new report shows a rise in what's known as spamiflage, with accounts claiming to be U.S. voters and soldiers posting about hot-button issues.
And as I shared with you earlier, they did it against both parties at the moment. Also, Christopher Wray, I played the interview earlier, he was on NBC and admitted that there's over 2,000 cases right now involving China influencing our political people as far as politicians, etc. And we just found out Kathy Hochul, former aide, has been arrested for conspiracy dealings as a Chinese operative involved in the government of New York.
Welcome back, everyone. Here to Live Now from Fox. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you. New York police have arrested a former aide to Governor Kathy Hochul today, weeks after the FBI raided the aide's Long Island home. Authorities arrested both Linda Sun and her husband, Chris Hugh, in Tuesday's action. Sun is charged with violating conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, visa fraud, alien smuggling, and money laundering conspiracy. She is alleged to have acted on behalf of the government of China and the Chinese Communist Party. Hochul fired Sun last year after her office discovered evidence of misconduct.
So the governor's claiming she rid herself of this one, but she worked with the Democratic Party for quite some time and lived in a $3.5 million home. It kind of reminds me of another Democrat that had problems with a Chinese spy for 20 years as her driver.
Dianne Feinstein and a Chinese spy, the unsuspecting mole who got a front row seat to the senator's dealings for 2 decades. Good.
That's right. For 2 decades, Dianne Feinstein's driver was arrested for being a Chinese spy. Now, the sad thing is you had so many people not understanding Dianne Feinstein was a dual citizen of China and America, and she got most of her wealth from her Chinese investments, her and her husband. Interesting. And then there's a lady named Fang Fang. Do you remember her?
On December 8th, Axios reported a huge scandal. They discovered a Chinese spy named Fang Fang, also known as Christine Fang, had for some time infiltrated the U.S. political world through political fundraising and sexual bribery.
She got involved with the Democratic Party and did sexual favors with 2 mayors, a congressman, and a senator. She was involved so much to where she was deported. But the interesting thing is Swalwell is the one that we most know of, but he was on the Intelligence Committee as a freshman congressman. Why was he put on one of the most elite committees? You've got to ask yourself, because if you're on the Intelligence Committee, you're told things the rest of the Congress and others in the country are not aware of, because it involves national intelligence. So this young man, who had a sexual bow girlfriend from China when he was in the state of California, brought her to D.C. Quite influential, this young lady was. And as you guys know, that became an issue. So as we get ready to wrap up the show, I want to remind you that the president has reached out with Kennedy, and they've become friends. But his vice president, Kennedy's vice president, Nicole Shanahan, who gave over $100 million to the Democratic Party, has now left the Democrat Party and has endorsed Trump as well. And with her money has made this ad that's going across the internet. Listen to this.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing Independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, Independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like, Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy. And I instantly believed it. With Independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech, silences political opponents, supports forever wars, and abandons democracy by anointing its candidates.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, Independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of Independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With Independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if Independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
What about that ad? And of course, the cure for Trump derangement syndrome is independence. As she said on Chris Como and other interviews, she said she was not aware of how biased her party was till she actually tried to help somebody run for office, and to see the measures they went to, the legalities, the lawsuits, and the money that they poured in the Democrats to keep Bobby Kennedy from primarying Joe Biden, but then as he announced as an independent, all the money they spent putting him in legal situations that he had to battle just to get his names on ballots. It's quite the story, and interesting enough. Well, as we're wrapping up, don't forget there's a challenge. Can you pronounce the quarterback of Tennessee's last name? Here's some people that gave it a shot, and they're out on the street in Knoxville. And if you can say it, call 629-282-1776.
Nico Lamalevia.
Lamaleva. Lamaleva. Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaleva.
Call 629-282-1776. Pronounce his name correctly, and we'll play it on the show. And I may send you something, but I'll tell you what, I'll send you one of my books, autographed. But people just can't seem to pronounce it.
Try again.
Nico Lamaleva.
Nico Lamaliava.
Nico Yamamaliva.
All right, to help out Vol Nation, Nico took to Twitter to share how he says it.
What up, y'all? I'm Nico Yamaliava, and
He just said it. He tells you how to say it on Twitter, but I'm not going to play it and make it that easy for you. Call 629-282-1776. That's 629-282-1776. This is Macil Duncan. Thanks for joining us on the Macil Duncan Show. And we've had a blast being with you, and I hope you guys have had a good time. And don't forget RFK, Donald Trump, all the guys put together. It's kind of amazing to get all these guys together. So my theme song today was Let's Hear It for the Boys. As they unite together.
He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Away in the heartland where the Eagles play. You can't replace a man with a worn out hat, or the steel in his hands, or the boot on his mat. I see the sweat on fields in the morning light, and I'd rather fight than lose that sight. Silver screen costume men with their tails, but I've lived the dirt roads and the hardback trails. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. chasing the dreams in a factory town, telling us to lay our rifles down. But a country boy's grit, it just won't break, for the roots run deep in the lands we sleep. I heard Grandpa's stories about the war and the farm. His legacy beats in the stubborn arm. No sooner the creek can take his flame. As long as I breathe, I'll carry his name. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. This is my country, this is my fight.